The first thing Commander Tressa of the Volari Dominion noticed about the human soldier was his stillness. Not the disciplined stillness of a ceremonial guard, nor the stiff rigidity of a frightened prisoner. It was something else, quiet, deliberate, as if motion were a choice he simply wasn't interested in making. He stood in the center of the command chamber, wrists bound by a gravitic restraint, boots planted squarely on the obsidian floor. His uniform was torn and scorched, the insignia of the Terran Expeditionary Forces barely visible beneath dried blood and ash. One eye was swollen shut. The other watched her calmly. Too calmly. Tressa flicked her crest in mild irritation. Humans were supposed to be volatile, emotional, easy to provoke. That was what the Dominion's intelligence briefing said. That was what justified the invasion of their border systems: predictable aggression, chaotic governance, inefficient diplomacy. And yet this one simply stood there, breathing evenly, as if he were waiting for weather to pass. "Human," Tressa said, her voice amplified by the chamber's resonators. "You are in the presence of a Dominion commander. You will respond when addressed." The soldier didn't answer. Behind her, several Volari officers shifted uneasily. The Volari were tall, elegant beings, their pale blue skin traced with bioluminescent veins that glowed faintly when emotions flared. Tressa felt her own markings brighten, a subtle sign of annoyance she made no effort to hide. She stepped closer. "State your designation." The human's lips parted, just slightly. "Elias Mercer," he said. "3rd Infantry, Terran Expeditionary Forces." His accent was rough, voice hoarse, but steady. "And you were captured during the fall of Outpost K-17, Tressa said. "Yes." "No pleas for mercy?" she asked coolly. "No protests? No threats?" Elias met her gaze. "You didn't ask." A ripple of low murmurs passed through the chamber. Tressa studied him more closely now. His posture was relaxed despite the restraints. His pulse, visible at his throat, was slow. Even his eyes held no obvious fear. That unsettled her far more than defiance would have. "You will kneel," she ordered. The command chamber fell silent. Volari authority was absolute within Dominion space. Orders were not suggestions. They were law, enforced by neural compliance fields and centuries of cultural conditioning. Elias Mercer did not kneel. He didn't tense, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. He simply stayed where he was. Tressa felt the glow along her veins flare bright white. "You will kneel," she repeated, sharper this time. Still nothing. One of her lieutenants stepped forward. "Commander," perhaps the translator. "It is functioning," Tressa snapped. "He understands me." She turned back to Elias. "Explain your refusal." Elias exhaled slowly. "I'm not refusing," he said. "I just don't kneel." The simplicity of the statement sent a strange chill through her. "Everyone kneels," Tressa said. "Before the Dominion, all lesser species kneel. Then I guess I'm an exception." Her crest flared in shock. No human had ever spoken to her like that. "Do you understand what will happen to you?" she asked. "Yes." "And yet you choose defiance?" Elias tilted his head slightly. "No. I choose stillness." That word again. Stillness. Tressa gestured sharply. The gravitic restraints tightened, forcing Elias to his knees with crushing force. The floor cracked beneath him. For a brief moment, pain flickered across his face. Then it was gone. Even kneeling, he straightened his back. He looked up at her, not with hatred, not with desperation, but with something dangerously close to pity. That was when Tressa realized this interrogation was not going as planned. The Dominion had conquered 17 human systems in under 2 cycles. Their fleets outmatched Terran technology. Their soldiers were genetically optimized, their strategies perfected through centuries of interstellar warfare. Human resistance was fierce, but fractured. Elias Mercer was supposed to be another data point, a captured foot soldier, a source of tactical information before being processed or repurposed. Instead, he had become distracting. Tressa found herself returning to the holding chamber more often than protocol required. Each time, Elias was standing or kneeling if restraints demanded it, watching, waiting. "You've been given food and water," she said during one visit. "You haven't touched them." "I'm not hungry." "That is biologically improbable." "Stress does that." She studied him. "Your species fights with remarkable persistence. Even now, when defeat is inevitable." "Inevitable isn't the same as final," Elias said. "The Dominion does not lose wars." "Neither do we," he replied. Her glow brightened again. "Your fleets are in ruins." "Our fleets, yeah," Elias said. "That's not the whole species." Tressa circled him slowly. "What makes humans believe they are special?" Elias considered that. "We don't mostly. We just believe we're responsible." "For what?" "For what we refuse to become." That answer lingered in the air long after she left. 3 cycles later, the Dominion suffered its first unexpected loss. A Volari command ship vanished near the fringes of the occupied human territory. No debris, no energy signatures. Just gone. Then another. And another. Human forces weren't engaging directly. They weren't meeting fleets head-on. Instead, they were waiting, disrupting supply lines, sabotaging communication relays, striking and disappearing into the dark. Tressa read the reports with growing unease. She returned to Elias. "You knew," she said flatly. Elias looked up from the floor. "We planned for this kind of war generations ago. You cannot defeat the Dominion with patience and shadows." "No," he agreed. "But we can make you tired." "Tired," she echoed. He met her eyes. "You fight to conquer. We fight to endure." The concept was alien to her. "Why are you telling me this?" she demanded. "Because you keep asking the wrong questions," Elias said. "You think obedience is the ultimate power. And you think defiance is?" "No," he said softly. "Choices." Tressa said nothing. For the first time since the war began, doubt flickered within her. The breaking point came during the siege of Terra Prime. The Dominion fleet surrounded the human homeworld in a flawless encirclement. Victory was hours away. Tressa stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath them. "Blue. Green. Alive." "Commander," an officer said. "Human transmission incoming. Priority encryption." She expected demands. Threats. Last words. Instead, a single message appeared on the holo display. "If you continue, we will trigger the stillness protocol." Tressa's veins dimmed. "What is the stillness protocol?" she demanded. No one answered. Then the stars went dark. Not physically, but digitally. Sensors failed. Communications collapsed. Navigation systems froze mid-calculation. Across the fleet, ships drifted, blind and isolated. Tressa felt something she had never felt before. Fear. The transmission came again. This time, it included coordinates. And a name. Elias Mercer. She went to him personally. He stood as she entered, restraints deactivated by her command. "You did this," she said. "We did," Elias corrected. "You just gave us time." "What is the stillness protocol?" "It's what happens when a species decides not to escalate," he said. "We stopped fighting your way. You disabled an entire fleet." "No," Elias said. "We disconnected it." "How?" "We learned your systems. Your reliance on constant command input. Your fear of disorder. He took a step closer. You never taught your people how to function without orders. Tressa stared at him, realization crashing over her like a wave. You're not soldiers, she whispered. You're anchors. Elias nodded. We hold the line by refusing to move. Silence filled the chamber. What do you want? She asked finally. Elias didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. To be left alone. Tressa looked at the image of Earth still hovering in her peripheral vision. She thought of the Dominion. Vast, powerful, rigid. And she thought of the human soldier who had looked at her and chosen not to kneel. Slowly, deliberately, she inclined her head. The Dominion will withdraw, she said. Elias let out a breath he'd been holding for a very long time. Years later, historians would argue about the moment the Dominion stopped expanding. Some would credit the stillness protocol. Others would point to strategic overreach or internal fractures. A few would mention a single human soldier, a man who was given an order and did not move. The Dominion withdrawal did not happen all at once. That, Elias would later learn, was deliberate. Commander Tressa ordered her fleet to disengage in phases, beginning with the outer rings. Volari doctrine demanded orderly retreat, but the humans had broken the doctrine's spine. Without constant centralized commands, Volari ships hesitated, waiting for instructions that no longer came fast enough. Human forces did not pursue. They watched. Across Terran space, resistance cells received a single encoded message. Hold position. Do not advance. Many commanders argued. Some begged for permission to strike while the Dominion was vulnerable. Others demanded vengeance for lost worlds, burned colonies, and billions dead. The answer was always the same. Stillness. Elias remained aboard the Dominion flagship for the duration of the withdrawal. Officially, he was still a prisoner. Unofficially, he and Tressa spoke daily. Not as enemies. Not quite as allies. But as two beings standing at the edge of something neither of their civilizations had prepared for. You have shattered our hierarchy, Tressa said during one such meeting, gazing out at the stars. Entire command lineages are in collapse. You built it too tight, Elias replied. No slack. No room for doubt. Doubt is weakness. Doubt is how you stop before you destroy something you can't fix. Tressa's bioluminescent veins pulsed faintly. You believe mercy is strength. I believe restraint is, Elias said. There's a difference. She turned to him. And if we return? In 10 cycles. In 100. Elias met her gaze evenly. Then we'll still be here. The words were not a threat. That was what made them terrifying. The last order. When the final Volari ship exited Terran-controlled space, Tressa summoned Elias to the command chamber one last time. No restraints waited for him. No guard stood at her side. You are free to go, she said. Elias nodded, but did not move. Tressa noticed. Of course she did. You have been released, she said carefully. I know. And yet, she added, you remain still. Elias smiled faintly. Habit. Silence stretched between them. There is something I must do, Tressa said at last. She stepped forward, her posture formal, ceremonial. I am issuing my final command as Dominion commander of this sector. Elias felt the weight of the moment settle into his bones. Human soldier Elias Mercer, she said, voice resonating through the chamber, kneel. For a heartbeat, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Elias looked at her and did not move. Not in defiance. Not in anger. Simply not at all. Tressa's crest dimmed. Slowly, deliberately, she lowered herself instead. The act sent shockwaves through the Dominion hierarchy. A Volari commander kneeling before a non-Dominion being was unthinkable, treasonous, heretical, necessary. "I withdraw my order," she said quietly. "And I withdraw my claim." Elias swallowed. "You don't have to." "I do," she interrupted. "Because if the Dominion is to survive what comes next, it must learn what your people already know." "And what's that?" he asked. She looked up at him, eyes luminous. "That power ends where obedience begins." Epilogue. After the silence. Elias Mercer returned to Earth 6 months later. He was not greeted with parades. He was not promoted. He was quietly discharged. The official record listed his actions as non-combatant interference resulting in strategic ceasefire. The phrase confused historians for decades. Elias didn't correct them. He bought a small home on the edge of a regrown forest outside what had once been a scorched exclusion zone. Trees were coming back, slowly. Humans were good at that, waiting for life to return. Sometimes, at night, he would look up at the stars and wonder where Tressa was now. The Dominion fractured after the withdrawal. Not violently. Slowly. Systems demanding autonomy. Commanders questioning doctrine. Entire generations raised without the certainty that orders must always be obeyed. Some Volari scholars called it the human contagion. Others called it evolution. Years later, a Volari envoy arrived on Earth. No fleet. No weapons. Just a single ship, broadcasting its presence openly. The message it sent was simple. "We request dialogue, not command." Elias watched the transmission from his porch. He didn't smile. He didn't move. He simply let the moment be. Because some victories weren't won by advancing. Some were won by knowing exactly when to stand still.